Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Talk Trackmania. We are back in the house. All parts included, but some of us are a little bit more broken than the last time we were on today's podcast. But we are back. On time for once. It's been a while, but a little bit last week we were an assortment of different ways of broken. I believe our poor dear Erwin Webber was unwell, and Mr. Turbo was busy. See, his arm is significantly more bulky now, but it is also white and covered in bandages. Unfortunately, had a little bit of an injury there. So we certainly, on behalf of the entire Let's Talk Trackmania team, Turbo, we wish you all the best and hope you recover with all due haste. As unfortunately had sustained a little bit of an injury, but we are back. We have recovered to an extent, and we are back to talk about some Trackmania topics which we have missed over the last few weeks, and also some which have been developing throughout the end of September and going into now the start of October. It feels weird saying it's the start of October. I mean, that's a little bit bizarre for me personally. But yeah, before I get, entrapped into me complaining about how I feel old and time's passing too fast and all the rest of that, and I start crying on stream, I think it's good to get into things today. As always, of course, the podcast is brought to you by esac.gg, as always by the man behind the screen, Erwin Webber, who has also recovered a little bit faster than Turbo's going to be recovering. But regardless, speaking of Turbo, are you okay? Do we need to pause the podcast for like a kind of cuddle session here, or are we going to be able to go forward all good?
Nah, we're good. But first of all, Paul, happy belated birthday, my man. I just had to think about that because 2 years ago
birthday,
we were in Prague, and we were partying, and it was a good evening, and I just broke my arm. So yeah, that has happened. I was dumb, but maybe it was also a wake-up call, so always take the positives out of that. Also, the globe seems to work, that's also cool. And I try to improve with keyboard, because right now I'm playing with a cast. Like, this middle finger here is providing me the brake button, and this is my steering and acceleration. So it's actually not going too bad, but I didn't sleep that well. That's why I was like lying in bed the whole day because my arm was hurting. I don't know what that was, but today was the day what was not really that good for me. But I hope you guys are doing better.
I thought you were good at casting.
Nah, I am.
It's kind of difficult to cast yourself, right?
Yeah,
that's true.
You would be good at casting other ones. I mean, he already is back at casting.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
Yeah,
like Elity
indeed.
Cup. I did watch a bit of that. I think maybe we can talk about that later or not. I don't know. But I'm also fine. Like I'm happy that we are back together. Like I really enjoy these talks. And apart from that, my university starts like today or started today. That's not going so well, but well, like I enjoy streaming right now lately, and so everything is good. I just have to like get my motivation up a little bit more for the university stuff. But I mean, I think like everyone can relate with that, right? Getting your motivation up for something like that is not that easy.
No, I can agree. I mean, now with all the seminars that I would have had, like athletics, swimming, funny, I cannot do them.
Yeah, especially for you, right?
That is not good. And now I just have to probably only take like 1 or 2 seminars this semester, and then just take the exams that I have been avoiding for the last 2 years, and then I try to pass them. So also progress, of course, to catch up a bit, but still it's like, I'm not meeting any new people only in those 2 seminars, and that is still bad. But gradually getting the motivation back, because summer semester wasn't that good. Motivation wise, I mean, I passed some exams, but still could have been a bit more for me.
Yeah,
but you're always complaining, so whatever.
I mean, that's our job. We're getting older, and just like the complaints just start to get louder and more frequent. I mean, that's just how these sort of things work. But I suppose you've got to take the rough with the smooth, and I suppose taking the rough with the smooth is almost a very relevant saying when it comes to Trackmania. I feel like, I mean, there is some smooth, but there is also some rough you need to take. And just as a little kind of starter point, I wanted to ease ourselves into the podcast with what we were talking about in figure. Continue to talk German, I'm going to eat you. Anyway, so with the last time's podcast, we were dealing with a lot of controversy regarding the Trackmania Grandleague caster situation, as Magi had just been announced as a Gaming Priv cast, and Necra has since been displaced due to lack of viewership, or at the very least lack of exposure, as I believe it was GameWord were told that they could no longer have him as a solo cast and would have to pair him with an influencer in order to retain Necroa's services. So that's the kind of point we left off at last week. Just to kind of fill everyone in, fill you guys in if you didn't manage to catch up on it as well. We now have 14 organisations confirmed involved. 14 players are represented by 14 different organisations. Not all of them have a designated stream, and not all of the players have a designated organisation. So I'll run you guys through that just quickly. So we have Alliance returning with Spam and being streamed on Spam's channel with an unannounced caster as of yet, as far as I'm aware. Same with Granadi on his own channel for alternate attacks. Not entirely sure who the caster is going to be for that just yet. BDS will be returning with Afi, with Wingo Bear going to be handling the stream for that. Berlin International Gaming return with an unchanged lineup of Massa and Trilux. Edelweiss, much the same as well. Mudda and Yannex. Papu will be coming back for Gamers Origins and will be streamed by Luti once again. GameWord have yet to announce their stream setup, so that is TBA. And Gwen will, however, once again be playing for GameWord, and much the same for Molotovs and Marshmallows will once again have pack, but with an unannounced stream team. And Gaming Priv will be as announced with Magi and Aurel. Izzy Dream with Binks and Do Flamingo H2. I'm not entirely sure who that is, but sounds cool, I guess. Yeah. Maybe. Carmine Corp with Brennan Kameto. Lil Esports with Worker and Ayako. McLaren Shadow with Kappa and on their own channel, but Geek announced that he will be the caster for that. And last but certainly not least, Solary will be casting their own team and their own player, Carl Jr. So, initial thoughts on that, guys? Any surprises to you? Any people coming in or going out, which you specifically noted? Also, pardon me, Ordless will be Tween and Scrappy this season so far.
Yeah. I mean, the first surprise is, let me actually open up the page.
Yeah, Scrappy, obviously.
Scrappy, yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what I wanted to say, that Scrappy has no organization, because, I mean, I was just like, when I was browsing and wanted to shop some things, but I'm still very uncertain. I was watching Scrappy and he literally almost pulled 4,000 viewers. Like, how lucrative is that for an organization to have a player like Scrappy, who is really on the uprise? He has almost 40,000 followers and no organization. I mean, why is the question? Is there any reason? Is it because of Scrappy? Is he just unlucky with his organization? But I mean, Scrappy for me also one of the best Trackmania players, also when it comes to pace and also, yeah, maybe not consistency, but he's really getting there, you know? He has shown us that he can be fast. I mean, almost got delegated into the Trackmania Grandleague Challenger thingy, or just out of Trackmania Grandleague, and he could have won actually the playoffs because he has just qualified himself towards there. So it's a weird situation Scrappy's in right now, and I'm feeling a bit sorry that he didn't find an organization thus far.
Yeah, it's a sad situation for all of us, probably. Like, I also don't really understand it. I mean, there must be a reason. Like, maybe the organization isn't happy with Trackmania in general. Maybe they are unhappy with Nadeo. Maybe there is something with Scrappy, you don't know. Like, in the insights, like, maybe there's like some controversy between them. You never know, right? But it's definitely, like, from the outside look, it's definitely just really sad, because he's definitely one of the better players in the TMGL, like one of the players that actually has like a chance at reaching the top, which he already proven. And especially like with his stream numbers, everything is like if you want to be in Trackmania and have a player in TMGL right now, Scrappy is definitely one player you want to have, just by the looks of it, you know.
I agree. Yeah, go ahead.
100%. I mean, the problem when it comes to this sort of situation is that Scrappy, throughout his involvement in Trackmania Grandleague, has become, a more popular personality, player, streamer, whatever it is you want to put into it. And I mean, it could have been for any multitude of reasons. I mean, it could have been that the org just simply has ran out their contract with Trackmania Grandleague. I believe typically they were in 2 seasons, 2-season contracts, the orgs. Initially, some I don't think there was any on 1, or maybe rolling contracts perhaps, but it may just be that they finished their 2 and they're no longer willing to be part of the league. They've dipped their toes in it and they don't feel it's good for them. Also, on the other side of things, it could be a money issue. I mean, Scrappy now having a bigger exposure, bigger popularity, may be demanding a higher fee from the organisation in order to retain his services. Organisation turns around and thinks maybe that's not worth for us, and there you go, he's gone. He's no longer part of that organisation. I mean, these things do happen. Scrappy certainly with the exposure base where he could attract an organisation similar to the powers, shall we say, of Lazarus. I mean, we've seen other organisations with similar kind of profiles already in the scene. But I mean, that's the thing. I mean, these are the most kind of out-facing, kind of public options. It could be anything behind the scenes. It could be maybe they've had an argument. Maybe they've had some sort of disagreement. Maybe it's something that Trackmania Grandleague no longer want Lazarus to be involved through some sort of disagreement on their end. Might not be anything to do with Scrappy. So it realistically could be anything. It would only be speculation at this point. Tween, I do especially feel sorry for. If I'm correct in saying he was also orgless last season, and now he is going to be orgless once again this season, which, I mean, here's the way I look at this, right? You do have players in the league who are extraordinarily capable players, but make no efforts to expand their exposure base, or, like players like Pac, for example. Pac's an extraordinary player, but he has next to no social media presence and he never really streams, So Pac could make himself more valuable and more attractive to organisations if he did have that extra layer to his value, so to speak, and much can be the same said of Tween. Now, not to say that all of these players can do things like this. Either, they don't feel comfortable doing it, they don't have the time to do that, anything like that. But I do, in a sense, understand why Tween is not going to be the most attractive player to some organisations. He is a very good player, however, he does not have the results to back it up so far in Trackmania Grandleague. I believe he's only once reached playoffs. Now, of course, tenured Trackmania people such as myself and you guys know that Tween is one of the very best tech players that's ever graced the game. However, has not yet reached, as I said, the top standing so far in Trackmania Grandleague. So I can understand if any of the players did why Tween may not have an organisation. I would certainly hope he would pick one up in the near future. You never know. I do know that one organisation was in contact with him. However, it doesn't seem to be that that's panned out, or that at the very least it's not been announced yet, as of course, it still says he's orgless. But, I mean, do you guys see any more organisations coming in at this point? Because, I mean, getting to the point already where they're announcing there are 14 organisations that are going to be involved kind of gives me an impression that things are, at the very, maybe not set in stone, but are expected to continue like this.
It's hard. Let's say
very unlikely.
Is it like how interested, how involved are they into Trackmania? Are they liking the game? I mean, it's of course too bad that an organization like Nordavind also left Trackmania. I mean, it's their spot. Maybe they could have picked some other player for that. Maybe even a player like Scrappy. I don't know, but they don't want to deal with Trackmania. They were in the game beforehand as well. But I think it's unlikely that Scrappy will find, and also Tween will find an organization. But are they still able then to get the prize money? I think the prize money can only be distributed among a player who is actually in an org, right?
That's a very good question, actually. But I think I heard that at some point as well. Yeah, could be true. It would be really sad to know that, because obviously, like, if you play in the TMGL and you're like somebody like Tween that could like potentially like get a couple of do really well, like where's the motivation if you know that you're not gonna get the prize money? Like, sorry to say that, but I mean Trackmania, or like it's not like TMGL is like the only competition where you can like make some serious profit in Trackmania. So like if even there, like you can't get money, like that's the only potential money source for you as a Trackmania player, like as a professional, like that views this as a like profession, then just do something else, right? Like at least like focus on something else. Like he has to get money from somewhere, so he's probably just more focused on working or maybe his studies or something like that. So obviously, like if he would have an organization, like he could distribute more of his time and more of his focus into TMGL as well, and would maybe even do better. I mean that's like a little bit unlucky because obviously like one thing has to like come first to get the other, but that's just how it is. And for Scrappy, I think it's really unlikely as well because like Scrappy, didn't he like say live in his live stream that either he's gonna play Orcless or he's gonna play with Lazarus, and now that we know that he's Orcless, I guess he phrased it that way just because like he knows that this time around it would be too late for an organization to step in, probably.
I mean, it could be anything at this point, but I said, for Scrappy's situation, it's really hard to say from the outside in this kind of sense. But one thing which I think is very important when you talk about would they get paid and all the rest of that, one thing I think that's really important in this kind of sense is this is a franchise league. The orgs own the spot, although of course from my understanding the players are expected to make some efforts to at least expand their value, their exposure base to become more attractive to orgs. It is Nadeo's responsibility to fill this league with orgs, because we think of it this way: the orgs are offered players. You know, we've seen that through some previous situations where in the Combine, for example, the orgs were offered certain players to then come into the league and then have these players as part of their lineup, so to speak. It is Nadeo's responsibility to be able to, as I said, find enough eligible organizations so that these players can then, you know, recognize that value. Of course, well, for example, you have people like Granadi who have established a relationship with an organization and then bring that into Trackmania Grandleague. Not all players are going to have that, and not all players will either have that opportunity, you know, be it through they're unlucky or they're not proactive enough or they've just not found the right person. Could be any reason, of course, but the fact of the matter is that, you know, at the end of the day, it's not the players that own the spots, you know. It's the orgs. So as such, if an org is going to be the one getting the spot, and I'd put in quotation marks, and Trackmania Grandleague, then as far as I would say, that's Nadeo's responsibility to find these organizations. And I mean, one little thing I've been kind of thinking about Trackmania in general is that, so we have some players who don't have organizations, right? We have, I think, no organizations which have kind of had a very strong, I'm going to look through them, but apart from Molotovs and Marshmallows, let me see if there's been any others. No. So as far as at least I can see or I remember, Molotovs and Marshmallows is the only one that had a really solid footing in Trackmania before getting into Trackmania Grandleague.
Gamers Origin as well, but that's
Gamers Origin, that is correct. Pardon me then. Gamers Origin also did sponsor some high tier players. I remember Papu and Pack were part of that. Cap, Coco,
Aurel.
Not Aurel. Yeah,
Softy.
exactly that. Softy. But yeah, I mean, so Gamers Origin
Shorty
and Eminem.
wasn't. Shorty got kicked out before they changed to Gamers Origin.
Yeah, when he was back in Excess. But yeah, I mean, in this kind of sense, I mean, you do have organizations that are being offered spots, or at least coming into spots in Trackmania Grandleague, that really don't have a very big exposure or a very big reach. Now, examples would be based upon what Eirik was putting up on social media. I have lost it now. Actually, no, I've not. But you have the likes of Lille Esports coming in, which has something like I've nearly got more Twitter followers than them, for example. I mean, you have the likes of McLaren Shadow, which, albeit as a worldwide known brand in terms of McLaren, has less of a social media reach, at the very least on Twitter, than Molotovs and Marshmallows. You know, Easy Dream also struggling. Edelweiss, at the very least, does have some personalities on it that are going to give it some weight. But these aren't organizations coming in like when we had Secret coming in, when we had Alliance coming in, Berlin International Gaming, Solary, Cometal Corp, these organizations that are, either very close to six figures or breaking six figures. And now we're talking about three figures, four figures and that kind of thing. And I do question at that point, when you're getting that sort of diminishing returns, why not throw a bone to some of these teams who have been competing in Trackmania for a long time and supporting Trackmania for a long time? Numalops, that would be my very first example. Why would Numalops not get a shot in this? I mean, in this sort of case, you do have Orcs as well. Orcs GP Numalops now, but Orcs GP and Numalops have had a very long tenure in supporting Trackmania. I mean, there will be a few others which you'll be able to lump into that list for sure, but they're at least at the forefront of that. And I mean, M&M was initially offered a slot, when this very much started. I mean, there was a bit of a thing talking about how when Grenade was brought in, that players were kind of being selected and picked, like, when there was an internal Poland qualifier and stuff like that. Like, Nadeo approached Molotovs and Marshmallows and asked them to hold an internal qualifier and asked them to give them a player to participate in Trackmania Grandleague. That was how that worked. M&M got offered a spot, whereas the rest of it was open qualifiers. And the rest of it was invites, actually, if I remember correctly.
It was mostly invites, yes, from the beta season before. It was a qualification tournament, with for different countries. You had like different.
That was for the beta season.
That was for the beta season.
Yeah, but the one after.
From the beta season, they invited 8 players out of the beta season, or maybe even 10 or something like that.
I think even more, right?
Yeah, maybe even more.
An open qualifier. I remember talking to Riolu about that when we were.
Because they invited Massa, I remember. Because
he invited every player.
Yeah.
If I recall, I think they invited every player. Also Matt with Space Station and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's
they
right.
Invited everyone.
But not everyone wanted probably then.
Yeah. Because I mean, for example, that's how Revolution got in, is because he won that qualifier, only because I wasn't part of it. But anyway, he won that qualifier, and as such was selected as the M&M participant, and would have represented M&M had they not picked up Pack and basically said bye, Revel, which was pretty shit. But that's a completely different drama that's buried in the past by now. But I mean, it's like M&M were offered a slot. Numalops were still around at that time, if I remember correctly, and they were already supporting, I believe, a lot of full speed tournaments and tech tournaments, and they weren't offered a slot, which I did find a little bit bizarre. The E-Corp lineup back then wasn't offered a spot, or UB Team, I believe it was at that time. And I think now, when we do have, I mean, I'm pretty sure Numalops would be perfectly happy to have someone like Tween on board, for example. I'm pretty sure Numalops would be perfectly happy to come into the league and bring their own player from the Combine, Soldier, and they would be perfectly happy to come into that. But I think it then comes into, would they be able to find a streamer which would bring them enough exposure? Would they be able to do this that will bring...
Venus Apple. Oh, wait.
Yeah, stuff like that. But yeah, it's a little bit of a weird situation in that kind of sense. But, I mean, would you expect that these kind of organisations will kind of get their pop at Trackmania Grandleague, or do you think it's just going to be investment from the outside, so to speak?
I think we're gonna see those orcs in the Trackmania Grandleague Challenger series, which has also been announced, and I think will also be a good success with an organization like Toro, for example, or also Loud Esports, which is also around for a longer time now. That we see those orcs growing and growing steadily in Trackmania, and I think if, let's say, I will cast for Mime. If Mime makes it into Trackmania Grandleague, I think that this will also be Tower Mime then in the league. I mean, this would only make sense, but I can also think that they also have the money background in the line. But if a player goes up with the orc, that he will still stay in that orc, right? Because the orc looks very great. It would make no sense to just swap him out of an orc, right?
Well, it wouldn't, but the organization has to be like prepared to like invest more than into the game, into the player as well.
Yeah,
that's like
true.
I don't know how much bigger the investment for a TMGL player compared to the Challenger series is. Like maybe it's like not that significant, but maybe it is.
Yeah.
And especially the small organizations have to think about it then, like if they have the money for that or not.
So also coming to when we've had all these announcements coming through for people, players, teams, streamers, stuff like that, there's been a few things that have kind of bugged me about this. Now, this will kind of be stirring the pot a little bit from some of the trouble we had in the last podcast, but we, of course, as discussed previously, we did have the issue that Necra was being subbed out of an opportunity in Trackmania Grandleague due to having a lack of exposure, not having enough basically interest in viewers in their stream in order to basically continue without influence or support. Now, the thing is, when I look through some of the organizations which have been announced, the majority of them do already have reasonably big bases in the terms of how much viewers they had coming into Trackmania through their streams and such like that. Relatively consistent in that kind of sense, but there was a few that I did find kind of quite surprising in that regard. Now, not so much a few, more kind of one in particular. And this isn't to in any way bash on that specific caster, but more to highlight a little bit of an inconsistency which I'm not entirely comfortable with. So, Eirik recently posted the viewer stats for the Trackmania Grandleague Winter 2021 and basically listed, on average, the viewer stats for all of the teams in order of how many viewers they were attracting through their streams. Now, if we give the example of Necra was streaming for GameWord, and he was in 12th position with 108 viewers through the GameWord stream. Now, one of the streams which is not then going to be changing, it has been announced as McLaren Shadow, which will be casted by Geek on McLaren Shadow's Twitch channel. However, he had 64 viewers, which, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, when we're talking, the top few are in the thousands, is not, a difference of 40 people isn't a lot. But you're having people who are going to be casting Trackmania Grandleague who have a low exposure base, who do not have that same sort of interest as these people who are, I mean, not that I'm going to say that Geek has a significantly slower interest or lower interest than Necra. I would say, at this level, it's kind of negligible between the likes of yourself, Geek, Turbo, me when I was casting, and so on and so forth. The amount of viewers you're going to get isn't going to differ very much, but I don't understand why Necra is being forced out and Geek isn't, personally. I mean, the only excuse I would see is that because he has been named as the official caster for TMGLC, but I kind of get it in that sense, but I don't find that very fair. I mean, I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that.
Yeah, it was my same thought. It's a bit wishy-washy if you say it in that slang, because I mean, I also didn't get the most amount of views. I cannot leak, but I will not cast alone the next season. Yeah, I will cast with an influencer, and I cannot leak my team, but it is kind of obvious. But
yeah,
hey, I cannot leak it, but you guys can guess what and also with whom I will cast, or for what organization. But also for Geek, I mean, we don't know what is happening in the background if he maybe will cast with someone from McLaren Shadow. But I definitely agree with that. It was also the same thought when you were reading out that Geek is casting for McLaren Shadow. Of course, he's a superbly good caster, but maybe he is running the main cast and then he's going, yo guys, I will cast over there, and maybe he gets some more views or he even rates his own channel. I don't know. I mean, he deserves it, but still, why does that not go for everyone? And also, someone like Ayako, I'm not sure if he's streaming that much, but I think he isn't. I can also be wrong, but I'm also not seeing him as someone who is like getting a lot of viewers in there. I mean, I can be completely wrong. Worker is also a good player. Is also an identity, especially in Trackmania Nations right now, right? He's in Team Luckers. He's a good guy, and Yeah, I'm not sure if this will really work out. And then on the other hand, bench someone down like Necra, because he's like one of the only French casters that we have. Is it because the organization is so much better with Gwen behind that? Like, Gwen is a good player, and then maybe Kappa. Yeah, I mean, he's also good. Like, they're both like the top 8 players in my opinion, or they both belong there. But I don't get that, why then Geek is casting, and if he's casting alone, it would make no sense with that rule that we've just had before. Maybe there are also some other inside news that we don't have. I don't know, maybe Geek is just lucky in that regard, but I think that this is not a fair thing, because I also had, or like not me, but the org that I'm casting for also searched an influencer which I'm casting with, to also like kind of try to grow a view base from my side. Of course, I mean, I've also grown a lot during the last Trackmania Grandleague season. I mean, I doubled my follower amount, and also a lot more people are watching also when others are streaming. Before that, it was like 2-3 views, and now it's like even more. And then they want to get this influencer part in. So I think that's a good idea, but will Geek cast alone then? And also, like, it will be also a bit weird, you know, if he just advertises his stream on the mainstream. Like, let's be real.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you know more about the insides of that, but as far as I can tell, it's not like Nadeo tells them, yo, Nikora can't stream, you need someone else. And for McLaren Shadow, they are like, yeah, it's fine, keep him. And you don't. I think it's more like, well, it's more around the way of like Nadeo approached all organizations, or like most organizations, like below a certain threshold. And they just told all of them probably to just like invest more maybe in the cast, and maybe some organizations like care about this information from the deal more and some care less. Like, for example, in the chat, TBS DLR just wrote that maybe just McLaren Shadow just didn't give a shit about what Nadir told them. Like, they are maybe just gonna like, yeah, you tell us to vote. No, we like Cheek. We wanna keep it like this. And they are like, they're just like, they are just maybe prepared to like get the backslash from Nadir or whatever Nadir is gonna do in that case. I don't know, but I don't think Nadir like has that big of an active role in like deciding which casters got removed or got like a dual cast now or not. I think it's just more around the case that some organizations like cared more or less about the, if you want to call it threat by Nadir, like it's not really a threat, but you know what I mean. That's what I'm thinking. I mean, if McLaren Shadow maybe just didn't find a suitable content creator for that, maybe they tried, but they didn't. So that's why they still got Geek. Like, maybe they wanted to find somebody but didn't. Also, like, you don't know how short noticed this kind of thing was, and finding a suitable caster, like a suitable person that is like interested in casting Trackmania, is also maybe not that easy.
Yeah.
So that could also be one of the reasons. So it's, I mean, from our perspective, obviously, yes, it is wishy-washy, but I'm not sure if like Nadeo is.
We don't know
if
the
you can.
inside.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
As per usual, you never know the insides.
I mean, it's difficult to know from the outside, but I would at the very least take some little kind of tidbits from it, in the kind of sense where, at the very least, Necros came out with a statement stating that GameWord did want to continue retaining his services. I mean, you can look at that either for just simply what it's worth on paper, or you can take that with a pinch of salt in the kind of sense that, I mean, if I was GameWords, you know, and I wanted to be a little bit underhand, of course I would tell him that and deflect the blame onto someone else, you know. So, I mean, you always need to take these little things into account when you're looking at this. But, I mean, on the face of things as well, I mean, Turbo, although you've, of course, not announced exactly what organisation and who you're going to be casting with, the very fact that you need to go to that effort shows that what, at least what you were doing was viewed as not enough, in a kind of sense. So at least someone's then had a problem with that, and then it's had to change. I mean, of course, you know, it's not a relationship I'd go into as is whether, you know, that's been a discussion between you and Eminem, or Eminem and Nadeo, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't really matter, the grand scheme of things. I just think that if it does remain like this, it looks bad. You know, it looks bad, especially having a massive social media shitstorm over the fact that Necra got kicked out, number one. You had another social media shitstorm which was, shall we say, misdirected, when Magi got announced as the Gaming Priv caster, which was mainly just at the fact that this is the first example of an influencer casting, and then, there was a massive shitfest. But now you have endured all of that, and now you come out and then say, okay, but this guy's casting, and he, under the social media shitstorm, which we've just, like, if we are fine with him casting, right, by that rule, we could have avoided this massive shitstorm before. That's the kind of part I don't get, right? If there's been some sort of condition, then I don't see much of the problem in being more transparent with that, to be honest.
Yeah, but that's like the typical Nadeo stuff. Like they are never transparent. Like especially the more hard to understand a decision by them is, the less they tell you about it for some reason.
Yeah.
Like it really seems like that. Like when it doesn't matter at all, like they give you the information, but when you really like want to know the information because you care about it in that way, because you don't understand it, then they don't. Which is really stupid. Like, of course there's gonna be social media backslash. Like, what do you expect? Like you can't just tell people, oh yeah, don't worry, we know what we are doing, but don't tell them anything about it. Like people are obviously gonna complain about it then, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's again like the issue that they were trying to like promise to diminish that one. Are we gonna get more transparent? But I mean, we know nothing. I mean, of course there are things that we're not allowed to know, but some things would be great to know for the public, like why this decision has been done, and why they didn't come up with that themselves. They're just gonna like put it under the carpet, and they're like, okay, yeah, you know what, it is geek casting, and hopefully no one notices that he even had less viewers than someone like that. We need to have a decision, like they have to justify themselves, and why did they approach the org that I was casting or I will cast for, and they're okay, you have to step it up, right? That makes like all no sense to me. Then it's wishy-washy again. I can just explain that. I know that they want to grow, but is it? I'm gonna see that. Don't want to start that discussion again. We're gonna see if this works out. I mean, I'm having a bit more faith in it now than just 2 or 3 weeks ago, but I'm still looking really, really forward to that, and I will be very, very, strictly thinking, or I'm strictly thinking about that it could work out. But I still am in the belief that a main cast with maybe all 16 parties, or like the main people involved in Trackmania, would be way better with a desk, with a pre-show, with good casters that are rotating. That would be way better than just 16 casts, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, like, to be honest, as I'm not directly involved in casting anymore, I mean, well, I'm not at all. I just complain. That's my role. I mean,
What do you mean that's my role already in this?
Okay,
I'm the one always complaining.
So yeah, we're just
to be positive.
We're just angry people. That's all. But I mean, one of my kind of main problems has been with this is the response by Nadeo in dealing with this situation. Now, we're used to, stone cold silence. We're used to a lack of transparency. That's the word I was looking for. We're used to that, and some people have kind of grown to accept that. But one thing I had an issue with is that, like, I recall, I don't know how much we spoke about it last time, but Eirik made a post about it, and you had, what was his name, Derek or something like that, from Nadeo coming in and going on the attack, like essentially attacking his credibility as a journalist, and dismissing his statements as suggesting that Eirik was being sexist, and kind of promoting that narrative about Magi only being brought in because she was a girl. Which, I mean, I responded to that because of course I did. But I've seen other kind of instances of people wading in with takes that, I mean, I personally found inaccurate, but regardless of whether they're right or wrong, and, you know, members of Nadeo wading into this situation to, I mean, in some cases to, you know, have their say on it, but in other cases, in the specific case of Derek, just make the situation significantly worse. You know, I didn't like that. I find this really hard to kind of facilitate into the right message that I want to send in this, but when someone who has not had a significant impact in the community in the terms of exposure or viewership, so when someone like that goes through a crisis because, you know, some sort of issue, so when all the tech players were like, okay, now our entirety of what we've been preparing for the last fucking 13, 14 years has been changed and we've been told to go into this new system, we were met with kind of stonewall silence. And as such, there was a large fallout for that. There was a large fallout. I mean, you guys will remember it was like the Twitlonger summer, you know? Twitlonger after Twitlonger of people being very unhappy, tournament organisers leaving, players retiring, you know, teams, you know, dropping, you know, orgs dropping teams and all the kind of rest of that. It was the kind of Twitlonger summer. And for the large part, we're met with, you know, no response, no support whatsoever. And there has been other instances, although I wouldn't be able to point them off the top of my head. I remember when I was specifically angry about this, I was able to list a few, but, you know, it has been a week or two. But now that there's this sort of situation that's against one of their choices, and all of a sudden everyone from Nadeo comes out of the woodworks to fly into the defence, you know, that's an issue, albeit a minor issue, I can have a little bit of a problem with, is like, where was this kind of communication support and all the rest of that when there was no World Cup in 2017? You know, when they've shaken up the entirety of the scene in 2018. You know, like, where has this all been before? You know, it's clear that these people have an opinion about stuff like this. Is it just that they're always kind of naturally on the other side of things from I am, so they're not going to come and defend it because they don't agree with it? I mean, that might just be the way it is. Maybe I'm so much on the other side of the spectrum from Nadeo that, you know, that explains it, kind of thing. But I mean, not in any way to say, you know, Nadeo bad and all the rest of that. But but it's like, I just find myself back into that cycle of finding it very hard to agree with what they're doing anymore. You know, I've been coming and going with that throughout the years in a kind of sense where, right, you know, I see the reasoning behind this. I see, you know, why this has been done, why that's been done. But for me, I see inconsistency. I see unfair treatment. I do still see progress, but I see progress at the expense of people who don't deserve being taken advantage of, in a kind of sense. And I don't really like that direction. And if that is the direction we're going to take, I then return to being concerned about the future, which is not some. Before the last few months, that's not a feeling I had to worry about in Trackmania for a while. You know, like we had that when we first started this podcast, when there was a lot of negativity around, when we did feel like, is it just going to come to be a standoff between Nadeo and everyone else? You know, is that what's going to happen? You know, because some members of Nadeo seem to think it's only the people who have retired and don't give a fuck about the game anymore that are complaining, and would like to think that, I'm sure, but that doesn't seem to really be the case anymore, or at least it's easy to dismiss the current situation as being, you know, the loud minority. But yeah, not feeling too comfortable about the way things are at the moment. But away from what's happened in terms of, you know, the old story of, you know, Nadeo good ? Nadeo bad ? To some other things which have been happening. There's been the Trackmania Masters Team Cup has started and is not finished yet, if I'm correct. But however, what has started and finished is the Elity Cup, which was casted by our lovely casted man. The casted man casted. And how did that go? I mean, I didn't manage to catch any of it because, you know, I'm a boomer and I don't watch Trackmania anymore. But how was that?
Yeah, I mean, I uploaded the final to YouTube, so you can watch it. Shameless plug here. But no, it was a good event. Maps were absolutely nice. Again, there was the issue to go from the start. Not a lot of players have shown up. I was hyped to see Javi Flyer. He didn't play. There were so many other players signing up, like Ratchet, Revolution. They didn't play. I was like,
Town.
Fuck. Why are they not playing? Let's just say out the word. But in general, it was a nice cup. One thing that was maybe not that nice is not that they didn't use reverse cup mode. Now, of course, I'm joking, but in the quarterfinals, they used a unique points repartition. They used 10-7, 5-4, and I was like, yeah, what is that? Like, does first place actually get something out of that? And all of a sudden, everyone was finalists. It was a weird situation because no one could really run away with points. Matches were really close. The first quarterfinal was the best. We had a triple final situation there, and also a lot of close rounds. One map had a superior bug with a bug set ending. Maybe sure you know that map, which I'm talking about. And there was like a round where two players have gotten the landing bug at the exact same time. I think it was Evon and Cap or something like that. It was really, really sick. But it was a great tournament. I mean, prize pool wise, €1,500. That is good.
Yeah, decent.
It's very good.
The final also got a lot of views, also thanks to Spam who rated me. But one bad thing was, Sadosh. This guy, I'm not sure if he is.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah, I noticed it.
Okay, so imagine you meant to cast a game, okay, and then 10 minutes beforehand you say, yeah, I'm not casting today. Like that's what Sadosh did. I'm not sure if this guy is a meme, but it seems he is. Also, when he was casting something else, and I had no good feedback from the French people then watching my stream because his cast was so bad, or like he just didn't know what to do. He was not really caring about it. That was it was some other tournament. But yeah, well, then Bren was casting, which is of course a way better fit. But it's too bad to see someone dipping out that early before an event. That is not professional at all.
Yeah, well, I don't think we really, at this point, associate with Sardosh and professionalism, to be honest.
He went and played chess.
Yeah, I mean, I've never really had, from what I've seen and heard, secondhand, of course, I don't speak French, I don't really have a very high opinion of him, to be honest, so I'm not surprised if he pulls things like that, to be honest. I've heard he's not exactly the most invested caster in Trackmania yet. I mean, Nadil thought he was a perfect fit for an official broadcast for 2 or 3 seasons, so clearly they know better than I do. But I mean, the Elity Cup at the very least, getting a good bit of prize money, which was very nice to see. And it's interesting that some of these tournaments have been managing to get more than just community prize pools now. It is some more serious numbers which are being able to be put up. Elity Cup, which before was, it kind of sort of stood out before in its previous editions, but now it has kind of almost cemented its own little place in your memory, so to speak, with having put together, a memorable format, albeit a little bit of a strange one, and attracting these sort of players. I mean, even if he didn't show up, the fact that someone like Sardosh was interested, and well, maybe he wasn't interested, but at the very least he said he was going to cast, it just goes to show that they're now getting a little bit of a better reach, and €1,500 isn't a joke. I mean, that's like half of what Gamers Assembly has been. You know what I mean? Like, it's nice to see also some other tournaments like the ones that Numalops are running. We're managing to attract sponsorship and all the rest of that. So it'll be interesting to see if that grows into anything. And of course, there's the kind of question of the past year for Mr. Holdal as to what he's going to manage to do. As he's been talking a big game about his 2022 Norway event, but remains to be seen what he manages to pull together in that kind of sense. So it's interesting to see how that side of things moves forward, I reckon. But good stuff from Elity Cup, even if there's a few little bad parts to it, some with the control and some out with the control. I think for community cups, it's nice to see an upswing in interest and nice to see an upswing in, just how lucrative it is.
We really had that already, but we need reverse cup mode more often, or at least we like the point system is like. I mean, what I really like about it, like I really like that they thought about the point system, because the current point system, in my opinion, is definitely not ideal. Just in general already. I mean, it's kind of needed for cup mode to work with like the finalist mode. That's like the big issue with that. But I mean, clearly they didn't know that TMPL already tried that kind of weird 10-7-5-4, was it? Right?
5-3. It was
5-3. Yeah, it's like the thing is, like on paper, like that's what we did for TMPL. I think I was kind of involved in that more than I should have been, maybe looking at the results.
He's to blame.
I think partly, yeah, definitely. Like on paper, it looks really great, but then cup mode comes in, and then you have like not cup mode, but then you have finalist mode. And if you have a point system which is like really fair in general, in the points distribution, but the point difference overall between the players is not big enough, which it wasn't, because Nadio didn't want to like at that point, like the idea was like, yeah, but it has to be 10 like for the first place, because like you can get a point distribution like maybe work like that, but then you need like you can't start with 10. It's too small. You need like the points difference has to be bigger, because otherwise, like as we've seen in the Elity Cup, for example, like everyone is just finalist. Like it doesn't matter what you do. Like I mean, that's already a big problem of cup mode in general, right? That like you play for like maybe half an hour in a match, like in the beginning rounds of tournaments with like a 100 points limit, and like everyone, like no matter how well or good you do, like unless you like completely shit every single round, you're just gonna get finalist anyway, basically. Like it's just 1 or 2 rounds in the end that decided, like no matter what you do before. Like what they did like in the World Cup, what I really liked, like they raised the points limit to like even 140 in the final. Like at that points limit, you have enough time to like actually like get a gap between players, which makes it a lot more fair, at least. Like maybe you can debate if it's interesting or not, but it makes it more fair. But yeah, I really like that they tried that with the point system. I mean, if they already tried something, they could have maybe tried the reverse cup mode, but maybe next time. You never know. Yeah, and other than that, like I saw it. I think I did play the maps with Dexter at some point. Like the maps were really nice. The finishes, let's not get me started about that, maybe. But I mean, except one map.
You're just bad. No, just kidding.
I just have no aiming. Don't call me bad because I have no aim. I have no aim. Let's specify my badness. No, except one map, I really liked them.
I also
like they were very creative.
I think I know which map you didn't like.
Oh yeah,
the one that hardly got played, the 45-second map, right?
Is it the 45-second map, like with the straight jump up as the finish?
Yeah, with the free wheel. That
Like the main reason why that map is kind of bad is not even the finish itself, which obviously I find way too hard, because I couldn't. That just no matter what I did, I never made it. Yeah, the safe finishes. That's another thing though. Like the safe finishes are way too far behind always. But anyway, like the reason that map wasn't really that great is because like nothing happened on it. Like you had like a really decisive, important turn at the beginning, and the rest of the map was just cruising. So like nothing happened. It was just one turn basically. So that's why most people probably didn't like the map that much.
Yeah, some speed
like it wasn't
as well.
Yeah, it wasn't that interesting, to say the least. But yeah, other than that, the maps are actually really creative. Like I liked that one map, like where I mean I did like the finish of the map, but we already established that point. Like yeah, you had this small turn where you had to like drive over the small edge. Like that was really creative, that map. But yeah, in general the maps were interesting. Like also diverse. Yeah. I mean, unlucky with the bug finish, with the bug slide, I guess, with the landing bugs. Yeah, I hope maybe people save the replays. Send me the replays, please. If you have them, send me the replays. Or like do your bug reports on Ubisoft forum yourself. Nadeo looks at those. Nadeo needs, like, that's very important to know. Nadeo needs replays to fix bugs. Like they want to fix them. Like finally we are at the point that Nadeo like really cares about that and wants to fix that. But they need replay files for that.
I mean, I have a VOD. Maybe we can find the spot, but that won't
VOD,
help.
that's the issue. VODs doesn't help. Like Nadio's looking at it. Yeah, there's a landing bug. I can see that.
Yeah,
And how
but
do you want me to?
maybe they can specify the block and stuff, but
Yeah, you can like reproduce it maybe.
yeah. But I mean, in general, it was a good tournament. Maybe I don't know. So for me, the best tournaments are still double elimination brackets that are played, because single elimination feels like you play the first round usually is for free. Second, you're also cruising. Third round, top 4 advances. I have to be fast. Like nothing is happening kind of in those single elimination brackets. And of course, it was short for them. It was round 1, 2, 3, then quarterfinal, semifinal, final. So we had four matches for a player at the start or in the first day, and 2 matches at best at the end. So it was good, but well, I think that double elimination is still the best over 2 days. That's my opinion, but yeah. It was still a great tournament, and also great to see the Elity Cup growing. I mean, I was casting Elity Cup 2. I remember that back then, I think 2 years ago or something. I was casting day 1, and I was super happy. Yeah, I can cast something. I was having some views, had some fun, was casting. First day and second day was done by Riolu. But it was so cool to see that, also that I'm growing alongside with that competition. And we will definitely see more from them in the future, hopefully. Or I think so.
Yeah, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. It's definitely been nice to see its growth. But another thing that's been coming up that's a little bit new is one of the final things I wanted to really bring up today. Suggested by our dear Turbo is the fact, of course, we now have a new campaign which has been brought in only a few days ago, if I'm correct. And also there has been some changes to the game, which I believe had already happened for our last podcast, but we just forgot to mention it, regarding specifically the wall, the wall or crash penalty, if I'll say it like that, because it's not always in effect just when you're hitting a wall. So like a crash speed penalty, and also water changes, and I'm pretty sure there's been some ice changes, as I've seen a few new kind of bugs boosts that people are getting and things like that. But I mean, for those who are not as aware of it, I mean, first of all, have you guys played the campaign? Have you experienced any of these changes in really a meaningful kind of way? How are you guys feeling about it?
Yeah, good changes. Like just making it short. I mean, there weren't any ice changes.
Shortly making it short.
Yeah.
So the bug was just discovered.
The bug was discovered already before. Like it was also used in for example, Kaki maps already. So it's not a very new bug. It's just it just is there. Like hopefully they're gonna fix that one at some point. I think it's
before it becomes a feature.
I think it's just easier now. I think.
Is it actually easier? Okay, maybe it is. Maybe because of the penalty change it is easier. Yeah, that could be the reason. Like the penalty change obviously is there. I mean, I already played with it a little bit before, but I don't know. What do you think about it? I mean, obviously, I think it's great. Like it did improve the situation a lot. You can still debate whether or not you even need it or not, but hey, I mean, at least right now, like if you make a small mistake, you're not gonna feel like an idiot for like 10 seconds until your car drives normally again. So that's good by me. Like I don't plan on wall banging, so it's fine in most situations. Like you
don't do it. It's not deal now. Don't do it.
You can, I mean, even as before, you can always force wallbangs in one way or another, right? No matter what you do with the acceleration penalties, you can make wallbangs worth it, but like with the acceleration penalty, of course, it's less likely that wallbangs are worth it. Like barely any wallbang spots are left. Like even with the some people, for example, they talked and said that, oh, maybe with the new acceleration change we have to like pay, like it was in TMFL Discord, like you guys have to pay more attention to wallbangs now. And no, you don't. Like that's the good thing about the change. Like if you seriously go for a wallbang, it's basically as before. So like wallbangs are still not doable. But if you like just make a normal crash or mistake, you don't lose so much more time as before. Like it's basically it feels way better to play. It really feels way better to play. And the water change basically just fixed the bug. To be fair.
I also don't know how the penalty now feels with new RPG maps. But for example, on map 24 or also 25, which are just very jump heavy, and also you have a lot of transitions. I didn't actually feel any issue with that, so the game felt much smoother for me in that regard. I mean, I could be wrong. I have to still play an RPG map. I mean, I have my fucking cast here, so I cannot play properly. I cannot compare really. But I mean, also, author time wise, in the new campaign, you just maybe swap the topic because I mean, Paul, you have not played the game probably in a long time, right?
You don't want to know.
Okay. Okay, but the campaign was good, but I think the difficulty of the author medals, like from red to black, was incredibly like it was a huge gap. The other times on the first 5 maps, you could probably do them like with your feet. They were really easy to do, but like on map 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, wow, those were rough actually. Maybe it's only me because I was playing with keyboard. I mean, I got all of them, but still, they felt not that easy.
Yeah, they were definitely a little bit harder. Like I feel like in general compared to last time. I mean, Phoebe already confirmed that, but like the author medals in general are a little bit easier. But I feel like the author medals for like black are still as they were before, but just the rest is easier than before. Which in a way it does make sense. Obviously, getting author times on black maps should be a bit harder, but
Yeah.
yeah. Like in general, I also like the maps. You know, the only thing I don't like, and I don't really want to get into the topic completely, but so many water jumps. And I don't dislike water jumps. I like them. They are cool. Like they are definitely like also like with the speed, like they are better than in the old games. I really like it, but the action key abuse is immense.
Yeah, I was
like
seeing that on
like
map
it's
one.
really annoying to play. Like even like with game, even if you play gamepad, you're forced to use the action keys, and you're like action keying so much on some maps. Like you have like 3 water bounces, so every single water bounce you like action key 3 water bounce, instantly go back to like normal driving and then drive. Like it's so many button presses. It's like, in my opinion, just unnecessary. But you're forced to do it, sadly, because it's better with action keys.
Yeah, I saw. If you don't know it, Paul, for example, on map number one, there's of course the trick that you kind of jump on the ledge of the pool and then don't get a water bounce to make that. And then on the second pool, you kind of float over it. And it's better to steer in 30%. Like you do left, right, left, right, left, right. And that is faster than just go normally over it. That's why you get that speed boost on that first map. That's also
Yeah.
how Amaterasu has gotten the world record. But that's, of course, doable with pad, but way more reliable with action key number 3, of course.
And that's the same for every single time you touch the water. Like every single water bounce, you basically have to do that. And I mean, yes, in theory you could do it with gamepad, but I mean, matter of factly, every gamepad like almost everyone is using the action keys for that. Like no matter if you're playing with gamepad or not, and actually using action keys with gamepad, finding the buttons for that can be challenging, but it's better, so you have to. And
You have
I
to
don't
change your
really like
setup, yeah.
that. Like I really don't like that. I mean, obviously, I understand it that it's good in a way that like keyboard players don't have like a disadvantage on water because of that. That's the good part. But it would be even better if you just wouldn't have the speed boost. Like I understand it's probably somewhat related to like the steering of the car or speed slides, maybe even. I don't know what it is related to, but it would probably be better if that just wouldn't be the case. Like I don't know,
Agreed.
but it's just like it doesn't feel great at playing. Like if it would be like a cool feature or something like that, then cool, yes, maybe, but it's just annoying, to be honest. And I don't know anybody that thinks it's cool. It's just you're just forced to like bind 2 keys to your gamepad or like to your keyboard, and then you have to like use them for the water bounces. It's not fun to play like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it does certainly sound like a lot's changed since I was last playing. But yeah, I mean, I certainly haven't seen number one. But I mean, hopefully that's something that, again, people will send replays to and actually get sorted, Shorty.
Well, I mean, it's not a bug, so you like what is not like Nadio like the way you have to do is like you have to like tell Nadio, hey, this is really not cool. Can you please change it? And then Nadio is gonna treat you with silence.
Well, getting a speed boost through how you enter a block, would that not be considered an unintended feature?
If it's unintended, yes. Is it intended? I don't know. I mean, is it intended that you're faster with smooth steering
I
through
think
like
it
ice box
depends.
play?
I think it depends how hard it is to fix. If it's really hard to fix, then yes, it was intended. If it's really easy to fix, no, it's unintentional. We'll fix that.
Yeah, I don't know. Like maybe you can make a bug report for that, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
Let's put it that
Fair.
way, because somebody in this round might have already done a report about that and didn't get an answer. So, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, well, that's just a little thing about it, of course. I mean,
yeah, it's annoying. You can get around it, but it's
yeah. Have you played the rest of the campaign much yourself, Short?
I played all of the maps. There's every single campaign, every single new campaign piece. There's like the author medal speed run. So like you just get all the author medals as quickly as possible, and there's like some rewards, like even prize money in theory. And yeah, I was doing that because it's a great way to discover the campaign. Because otherwise I don't play the campaign much. So that's the way for me to like do it and as well enjoy it at the same time. Yeah, I did play all of them, so like at least getting the author time, which wasn't that difficult, obviously, right? At least easier than last time. So the backtracks were a bit more difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, the maps are not bad. The maps are decent. Let's say it like that. I mean, I'm the wrong person to judge that, to be fair. So
I was casting this speedrun event.
oh yeah, you actually were casting that.
Yeah, it was actually cool to see that, but there were also some issues with patch being live and not being live, and then Rasta just completely was having a mental breakdown. I was like, dude, just chill, man. But he didn't chill, so he didn't really come up with a solution. But it was great to see also that the campaign has been done in under an hour. And that the hard maps were really the last two ones that were done. But yeah, I mean, that's all that I can say. I like the campaign. Good maps, very unique also compared to the others. Definitely better than the previous fall campaign, which was probably the worst campaign from all of them thus far. My opinion, of course.
Yeah, I heard multiple people say that.
But I think that this campaign is probably the second best or even the best campaign after the summer campaign. Or also winter, and I mean all campaigns in this year were really good actually. All campaigns.
I mean, they are
really good.
they are like one thing to be said. Maybe there is that like most of the maps, if not all of the maps, are like not built by like community people hired by Nadeo, like building them like together with Nadeo somewhat. So like it definitely also like changed the style a little bit more to like how community maps look like a bit. So that's definitely
drivable maps.
Yeah, I mean smoother. Let's say smoother mainly.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, that's more politically correct at least.
Yeah, but the maps are very good.
Good. I mean, I'm glad to hear it. I mean, I like the new direction that they've been taking in terms of having maps that are just easier and more enjoyable to drive. You know, I mean, I do find it hard to go back and watch well, not to go back, to watch people like Race Hands or Demon sometimes streaming some like old TMNF maps, for example, like campaign hunting. And when I played TMNF a few months ago, even I, loaded up a few maps and felt what they were like. But I mean, going back and seeing like some of the maps where, like, I can't remember what one it was, but just there's a dirt drop and like it feels like 9 times out of 10 you bug. And it's just, yeah, it's horrendous to drive and it's horrendous to play. Some of the other maps were really subpar as well. Trackmania 2 didn't really have as many memorable maps, I feel like, but at least stepped it up a little bit, and now things are at least becoming more interesting to watch and drive, I feel like. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad to hear that that's kind of taking a turn for the better, so to speak.
There's actually one thing I just remember, like one thing that I can critique for the maps. Like, I'm not sure about the respawnability, like the checkpoint placement, but I do feel like that's like one thing for sure. The signs weren't good, like especially like I mean I was trying to find everything as quickly as possible. And there were like multiple spots where either they just didn't even know where to go because there were no signs, or like sometimes like the scenery made it confusing to see where to go, which is definitely on the mappers, because that's something that you can like influence with scenery. So like you want to build scenery around the path, so you can just like, if on a good map you can just instantly tell where to go. And when you don't, then you need arrows, obviously. But like that was something that's definitely that could have been better. I mean, it's not that big of a point, like how many people do speedrun on the maps, or in general, like you're gonna find the way eventually, right? And you like those maps are hunting, so that's not a big minus, but it's still something that you could have like paid more attention to, maybe. And then the checkpoint placements, I'm not sure how good they are for matchmaking. That's maybe a thing that in my opinion, I mean, I can understand why they don't really like pay attention to that maybe that much. But if you have a checkpoint where like if you have a difficult section where like you can crash often, and the checkpoint is right there in a way where you can't when you crash you can't respawn at all. Like they have fast respawns now, so it would be cool if the maps would like take that into consideration, that if you have difficult sections, that if you crash, that at least you have like a good respawn. Because otherwise you don't need fast respawns, as your fast respawn is always fucked up, right? Like that's maybe a small critique point I would say that would be great, especially for like matchmaking. Like for hunting the solo maps, that doesn't matter at all. Like if you crash, you're dead. But on matchmaking, it would be cool to have like good respawns always. Also like on the track of the days, sometimes I noticed that I mean, I'm not perfect as well, right? Like my map also had like a checkpoint that was the wrong way around. Like in theory, it was really, really difficult to crash there, but it's not impossible, right? I mean, it wasn't me that placed the checkpoint, but that's a different topic. But
you tested the map, you released it.
I should have, yeah, exactly. I should have spotted it as well. I should have spotted it. Like I spotted it on the other checkpoint, but not on that one. But yeah, that these are just things like it would make me happy if more people are aware of that and like, at least try it. I mean, you don't have to succeed, right? But at least be aware of that that's actually a point that can make a map better or worse to play in Track of the Days as well.
Yeah, for sure. But it's nice to see that at the very least, people are enjoying the tracks coming out from this new campaign. So that's definitely good to see. But I mean, I think that's us worked through our bounty of kind of subjects to deal with at the very least that we'd set out with. Any other points you guys were specifically paying attention to throughout the months that you wanted to mention? Or weeks, rather?
No, not really. I mean, there are some competitions going to an end, and there's, again, the Trackmania Grandleague whole. Yeah, but now there are a lot of things to do with Challenger League, with TMGL, also with Open Grandleague. I hope that a lot of known faces are partaking in that. And maybe there will also be some other events. Who knows? Who knows? Wink, wink.
Maybe he says.
There will.
That's good to hear.
I can tell you already there will.
Well, we'll look forward to that, and we'll certainly catch up with that as and when it comes out. But for now, I think that's a good point to wind ourselves down for today's Talking Trackmania on a Tuesday. We will be back next week, same time, same place, unless someone else breaks another arm. But if there is any topics, as always, you want us to address or discuss, hit us up either in the DMs or on the social medias, which will or should be appearing on your screen in front of you. But once and as always, this broadcast has been brought to you by ESAC.GG and the man with the plan behind the screen, Mr. Erwin Weber. So big thanks to him as always. But that's going to be it for us tonight. All our friends in the chat and anyone who watches this back, hope you have a very nice evening. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we are looking forward already to seeing you next time. But for now, see you later.
Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.